today's video, we're going to be updating you guys on these upcoming storms, as well as the big roller coaster of a temperature pattern that we have coming up. Big cool down, big warm up, and then maybe back in the other direction. So there is a whole lot going on that we need to talk about today. Before we do though, check out Trilogy Maps. It's my other business. We do have tons and tons and tons of good weather maps that you can use for making your own weather graphics. We even just came out with regions, so if you want to check that out, we have a 50% off discount going on right now, and on top of it you can use my 33% off direct discount code at checkout on top of the 50%. So it's absolutely ridiculous the savings that you can get today on Trilogy Maps. So check that out in the pinned comment and description down below. Let's get into things though, and we're taking a look at the current conditions as we just slide this to this afternoon. We do have this coastal storm impacting Virginia, North Carolina. It's actually pretty impactful there. And then we have this cold front coming in, sweeping in behind it. So to the average Joe, this is just going to feel like a big rainstorm, but it's actually going to be multiple different storms that all kind of just mesh together here, and they're completely different, but the result is going to be rain. So it's going to feel the same from the ground. You would have to see these graphics to actually know that it's even different in the first place. Very interesting stuff. Now by Saturday, this is what we're left with. Saturday afternoon is we have some showers, maybe isolated thunderstorms along the coast. Usually you're not going to see very much thunderstorm activity with this type of a storm, but it can't be ruled out. I expect much more showery and just windy and dreary conditions with this storm. However, this cold front may pose a different threat. We may actually be seeing some thunderstorm activity along this, especially Missouri, Arkansas, Kentucky, Tennessee, West Virginia, Ohio, Pennsylvania, New York, even into Virginia and North Carolina there as well. So we have this stretching eastward by Saturday afternoon. And even by the time we're reaching kind of Sunday overnight is when we're seeing this impact a lot of your coastal regions through here. So you can see for the northeast, it has reached the coast. For the southeast, it's still kind of trailing behind, impacting states like Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, still even Tennessee and Western Virginia there. As we reach kind of the afternoon hours of Sunday the 21st here, this is when this cold front arrives for the southeast coast, so the Florida Panhandle up through Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, and Virginia. And that kind of wraps up this 1-2 punch system or systems that we have going on now. And we kind of move into the next little portion of our pattern. And really the theme here is going to be big ridge out west, big trough in the east, as we see this big time cool down moving in for the east here. And this is going to bring upper 60s, lower 70s pretty consistently. And we're approaching June, so that is quite cold if you think about it. Usually June, you're already experiencing upper 70s and 80s. But in this case, we're having a lot more of like April type weather going on right now. As we approach Tuesday afternoon here, that's going to be the 23rd, we get kind of an interesting jet stream storm pattern where we see all of this storminess following that jet stream up there. We also have some stuff kind of moving in, if you will, here for the four corner states, the plains, the Rockies here. We're seeing some messy storms moving in. Also for the southeast, potentially coastal storm number 2. And I will put a question mark for that because that is kind of up in the air at this point. But potentially watching for a coastal storm number 2. If that can move up the coast, which it wants to. But it kind of just hangs around there, as you can see. It kind of develops and then just wants to kind of linger. But if this can somehow move up the coast there, that would be coastal storm number 2. Again, big question mark there, but potentially. Now, as we reach towards midweek that next week, again, this storm is really brewing out there, but not doing much at this point. We do kind of have a rising motion through the Rockies and plains, and this tends to bring some thunderstorms here for Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, Nebraska when we see this. So we'll be watching for some severe weather, potentially some thunderstorms as well in there. By the time we're reaching Friday, we can still see this storm is wreaking havoc there in the southeast, but again, still kind of this lifting pattern that we see here is the main trend at this point. As we continue things on, we don't really move into much other than that. We really just see this kind of rising, flowing motion here. And then a lot of this coastal activity for the southeast, but it gets a lot quieter, as you can see, in the longer range as far as storms are concerned. So that is definitely worth noting. Now, the total precipitation, as you can see, is looking pretty elevated here for the Rockies and central states, where again we have that lifting going on for a majority of the model run here. We also have the southeast here, where we have this high amount of precipitation taking place there for Georgia, Florida, and offshore, and that is because of that coastal storm that just wants to sit tight for many days. I don't know if that's for sure what's going to happen, but that would lead towards far above average precipitation near the coast there, as this model is suggesting. So keep that in mind. That is where we're seeing the highest amount of activity here on this particular model run. Now, as we move into the total snowfall, again, just looking so kind of diminished here. The northern Rockies are a no-go. We don't see anything up here, but for the Sierra Nevadas, we see a few inches potentially. And the southern Rockies here dealing with still a little bit of snowfall coming in, but pretty much said and done by this point. As you can see, we're going to continue tracking this, but I'm willing to bet that we're going to be done with this. It appears like almost all of that snow has happened by about the 22nd, so just in a few days. And then after that, it's it's slim pickings here for snowfall. So we'll track this over the coming days, and maybe we will see this really die down after just a couple of days from now. That is kind of what we're looking at here. Obviously, not a lot of people live on these mountaintops, but I've been showing this daily because it is interesting and it's a reminder of the changing seasons, so I find it particularly interesting. As we move into that temperature pattern here, you can tell that we do have currently a positive PNA set up, and I'm trying to teach you guys as we roll through with all these different patterns about these different patterns and teleconnections. Here is a positive PNA, and I've told you guys about this before, but we see cold air sinking down to the east of this because that is upstream from us. Everything moves from west to east, so that is upstream. What happens in the west impacts the east. Far more than what happens in the east impacts the west, because things are moving from the west to the east, if that makes sense. Very rarely do things move from the east to the west. Tropical systems, sometimes there's some inversions of the jet stream, but in general, things move from west to east, as you probably already know. And that's for today. As you can see, we continue to get this colder weather at least through early next week, so Monday, Tuesday, and then we get a bit of a warm-up that wants to start moving into the east around midweek next week, so that's going to look like Wednesday the 24th perhaps, somewhere in there. But what ends up happening is we get another cool down for the coast that kind of sticks around through late week, and then we finally get what looks like a pretty substantial warm-up there by the time we're reaching midweek that week after, so about Wednesday the 31st, where we do have some cooler temperatures sort of rolling in, which is partially a negative PNA, but we'll go ahead and call this a neutral PNA. But what ends up happening is we see a lot of warmth spreading through these areas in the east especially, and the northwest actually as well. And things only continue to look colder actually out west. As you can see, we see this growing negative air mass, and this is going to likely lead towards a lot of warmer surging here from the Gulf as we enter the beginning of June. So we could go from a below average late May to far above average early June. And a lot of people were questioning, why are you calling this a heat wave when it's only showing slightly above normal temperatures? The reason why I feel like that could be a possibility here with the cold temperatures trending out west is because this is an ensemble model. This has many different members. And even when a few of them think that there's going to be far above average temperatures, it is still averaged down to this kind of slightly above average look. But this can trend in a much warmer direction because this is a ensemble model, like I mentioned, as more of those members jump on board to the idea of above normal temperatures. And there is the building blocks here for a potential heat wave, in my opinion, so that is why I've been titling the videos that. I hope that makes sense. Anyway, be sure to check out those trilogy maps. Again, they're going to be in the pinned comment and description down below. Also, subscribe for daily weather uploads, as we do upload every single day. You can even hit the bell icon for daily notifications when we upload so you never miss one. Also, be sure to like the video if you did enjoy it, leave a comment down below, and I will see you guys in the next video.